Hey guys, one quick thing before we actually get into the video itself. Much like with my first video for Batman Arkham's A Briefish History series that I do here, I've had a very unpleasant piece of news that sort of changes the light on the rest of the video. Although in this case, this is one that really makes me want to use some strong language at the start of a YouTube video, which is a no-no for monetization, so I'm biting my tongue. But I'm just too far into the process of making this stupid video, and with some personal things going on, it's going to be better for me to have something out. I will actually get into those in the meat of the video. Anyway, the update is that Meta, the parent company, of course, over the developer Camoflauj, has absolutely gutted Camoflauj with heavy layoffs, shelving any in-progress projects, one of which seemed very much the case. It was probably going to be a sequel to this one. Now, a lot of these are new reports. There's not a lot of confirmed things, but they're very reputable reports, so I don't see any reason not to take them at face value. So, unfortunately, this is going to add a little bit of ironic pessimism to the rest of the light of my video here, that my video was actively trying to go against, as it was finding some optimism in my life at a time where I need it here. The last couple of years have been particularly difficult on about every level imaginable for me. I don't think I have to lay out the global scale of stressors for everyone, and those are certainly still present, but there's been a cavalcade of personal crises leaving me much further in survival mode for a very long time now. I was already in a very rough place after Hurricane Helene devastated my region very unexpectedly late in 2024. Midway through last year, to help explain my relative absence on the channel for my returning and long-term viewers, I went through an extraordinarily rough separation. I am not interested in airing personal matters to people who don't need to be involved, but my now plural therapists have been having to work with me, coming to terms with the fact that there were things I experienced over the years that rhyme with the pirate captain in Assassin's Creed Pirates. Yes, being flippant is a coping mechanism at the moment. Distraction and escapism haven't been particularly easy in the last 6 months. Trying to work on projects here has been difficult with my fatigue, my poor Blackgate episodes stuck in the editing suite until I can just find the one specific piece of footage I need to fucking move forward, and even playing a game series I should be more interested in like Assassin's Creed has been a trudge, with Shadows just sort of dragging on. I've had some of the most incredible friends really step up to be here for me at a time there were deliberate and thorough attempts to isolate me from the only community I'd previously even been able to cultivate, so the ground under my feet stayed stable. But occupying myself alone in those quiet in-betweens, well, the silence has been too often deafening. Once I got through Christmas, it was clear time to do something for myself. My favorite game series of all time, the Batman Arkham franchise, had something of a rough stretch itself, to put it mildly. Sequel projects languished in development hell before being cancelled outright for years, and what actually made it out wasn't knocking socks off. Perhaps the inverse of the idiom, they were putting socks on? Origins dev WB Montreal released spiritual successor Gotham Knights, which I suspect was, at some point in early development, intended to be a direct series sequel based on how few elements would need to be changed to make the broader story fit Arkham canon, perhaps only changed to temper expectations. It was met with a resounding meh, wherein even I couldn't even muster the extra effort to tidy myself up for the video. Or so I thought. I've looked back and realized now I looked fine, I was just suffering body dysmorphia. Not now, though. Now I'm merely depressed, yet beautiful. Rocksteady's own actual sequel, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, made GK's level of disappointment look like Citizen Kane in comparison. so badly that many people feared it made the franchise commit that game's own title. And other than recurring potshots at its expense, I haven't even had the heart to put together a full video here to at least put it out of its misery in my own microscopic corner of the internet here on Baneshake. I'll save it for briefish history someday. All was not doomed for Arkham, a savior merely gliding a little more under cover of the shadows due to platform and circumstance. VR developers Camoflauj, fans of the series themselves, stepped up, releasing Batman Arkham Shadow as a MetaQuest exclusive title in October 2024. At announcement, I was interested, and dare say would have been full-on hyped were it not for the wrinkle that I was not really being permitted financial autonomy that could not be itself slipped under the radar. A key participant had decided years prior that the only money worth spending was for that party's interests. I'd already used my permission to spend on a PlayStation 5 more than 2 years prior, and I didn't own a Quest. So that's what I did for myself after my first single Christmas as an adult. I picked up the Quest 3. It feels appropriate for my experience. Arkham Asylum was my first game on a new console, as was Arkham Knight. So too would be Arkham Shadow. Treat this video as more of a classic spoiler-free review than I usually do on this channel. There will be a time and place I come back to this one for my usual shtick, but this one is best served first experiencing as blind as possible. The biggest joy of VR is having the new perspective, is it not? I'd even encountered one massive spoiler early after release, thanks to an asshole on Reddit and my own inability to play it before that could happen. Fuck that person in particular. And so part of me was concerned I wouldn't have as fresh an experience as I'd hoped for. But Arkham Shadow has a lot in store up its sleeve, and much quite early on. If it sounds like I'm being vague, I am. I've even deliberately picked footage that won't really give anything away, too. My VR experiences had been only brief, though exciting, glimpses through friends' headsets, so I knew I wouldn't be immediately vomiting into a bucket. And I was correct. Sorry if that image sounds funny to you. I could probably accomplish that by trying to force myself through a second Sarah J. Maas novel if you're just determined to make it happen. I had no issue turning off the comfort settings, of which there appear to be plenty for more susceptible gamers. I even turned off quick turnaround and fade to black on turnaround to great effect. Whatever you need to make it meet you where you are, though, I would wager is here. This game is such an immersive way to experience the Arkhamverse. Be the Batman was already the tagline on marketing for previous games, and seeing the Batsuit on yourself, throwing your cape out, and watching your shadow take that silhouette, breaking arms all from his perspective, it really makes you feel it. The first time in a stealth section, I realized the sniper's laser was pointing right at the middle of my forehead. I both chuckled and panicked a little. I routinely forgot I was sitting in my living room. Yes, I am the kind of bitch boy who sits comfortably for VR, would recommend. Because of just how all-encompassing these environments feel around you. By virtue of being a standalone headset and not one requiring a PC or console to run the games, the Quest is technically less of a powerhouse, though the design here feels perfect to cover those limitations. I was running on a full Quest 3 as I wanted the extra power for great performance while thinking about recording for content creation, but the more budget-friendly 3S should run Arkham Shadow just fine too. Back to all of the little immersive details though, this is clearly built from the ground up by a team of fans. Environments and the way doors load up and how everything connects all feels right at home in series expectations. The first time, instead of pulling a grate off the wall the normal way, I ran and slid into it to watch it pop up out of my way and let me in, just as the main games do. I knew the attention to detail was getting its due respect. And the gameplay here has been matched really well, even when the VR setup necessitates different controls. The spirit is always intact. Combat shocked me with how well it translates. And even though I have yet to quite learn the muscle memory to get myself as good as I am on the standard controller, I had no issue remembering what to do in each situation. Batman still punches across the room, And though timing restrictions are lessened a little to keep up free flow, that's to make more room for more accurate attacks within the motion controls. Swinging fists unintuitively will now drop your combo. Ground takedowns still require more time and risk interruption, but that's within your order of operations to do them, so as you get better, like the normal games, you will be able to assess your capability of squeezing them in. When stun batons came out, leaping over and behind thugs was intuitive, and even the complex stun leap slam against a shield feels insanely natural. And the moves are pulled lovingly from all around the franchise. The Bat Swarm combo is back following its absence in Arkham Knight, but then a couple of gadget special combos adapted from Knight get very welcome inclusions too. It's definitely not every move, and I'd love to see how a sequel could expand even further, but this is more than deep enough to keep me wanting to come back for more. I even think it does one element better. Modified shock gloves from Origins pop up, but instead of having a separate battery that then supersedes other moves when you activate it, it's now an option for strategy. Either use your combo build-up for usual specials or a takedown, or don't activate it and the gloves will activate. It's far more integrated usage than the way Origins just stapled them on top of the normal systems. Predator Stealth is also back and swinging, and though I think it carries a few more hiccups, it's still getting the job done very well. Seeing armed thugs above me in a floor grate always really made me feel like I was in the world, for whatever specific reason my brain found that especially immersive. The basics play out intuitively. Silent takedowns have you reach out and grab dudes before wrangling them into nap time, and though inverted takedowns don't actually have you go upside down to string MFers up, as that sounds more likely to cause motion sickness, the concept is still the same. I really like being able to grab corners, peek around, and trigger corner takedowns, all with the very natural motions. Now, AI and gadgets could use a little cleanup for stealth's purposes. I could practically never get thugs to investigate the sonic battering because of the speed at which they get distracted checking out other knockouts here, and there are a lot of options missing here, even with gadgets that do return. Apparently, Camoflauj really didn't want me weaponizing gravity. Lack of free aim options on the Batclaw meant I couldn't yoink people off of walkways, lingering on a ledge doesn't really give you the ledge takedowns, and there's no proximity detector on the explosive gel. So with the lack of successful sonic hurting, I haven't gotten to try the old ladder blast-off surprise. If I could make only one request for a sequel, it would be fleshing out stealth to more closely match the sheer volume of options of the main games. Predator Stealth is what made me fall in love with Asylum's gameplay so hard, and by night, I knew so many wild and novel ways to induce criminal sleepy time that I really felt their absences. Gadgets are a small number, since they're all being pulled from various locations holstered to a prototype bat suit, and you only have so many places on your body it would make sense to pull out a gadget. But they work well for the Metroidvania elements the series taps into. Again, it would be great to see more return next time, but what's here translates well. This version of hacking, instead of twiddling frequencies, makes better use of 3D space, but the connection to what came before still feels clean. The explosive gel is interesting, actually pulling the gel launcher from Blackgate instead of the usual gel sprayer, though I'm a little torn. Range is way shorter here than it was there, with no means to upgrade. So though it's technically faster than spraying a specific amount out like he does, you still really have to get to almost arm's distance anyway. I'd prefer physically spraying and doodling out the bat symbol if we don't get the benefit of doing this across the room. Gliding is also back to the simplicity of Asylum, since these environments don't necessitate momentum and launching, but a little finer control, leaning in and pulling back would be a nice upgrade. Now, with both the bias of novelty and recency and the counter of my current mental health and traumas, There's no way I can objectively assess where I'd even rank Arkham Shadow in the grand scheme of things. But what I am willing to say is that this story feels cohesive in a way very above and beyond expectations. It's a slightly more linear experience, so it gets that tightness to the plot that was somewhat lost after Asylum, but it also fleshes beats out like later games to keep emphasizing this is its own unique universe, its own specific spins on these characters. I will not hesitate to anti-spoil that this is not another Joker plot. It really leans into characters who didn't get much or any time previously. Dr. Quinzel, Harvey Dent, and Dr. Crane aren't their villainous selves yet, but are fleshed out in ways where you can appreciate what they are in those later, earlier games a little better. Heavy shout out to Elijah Wood as pre-Scarecrow. I didn't expect Frodo fucking Baggins to somehow feel like he would naturally eventually be creepy twink Asylum Scarecrow and John Noble Knight Scarecrow, but there were times where I felt like, yeah, this dude will absolutely be those later versions of himself. Kudos. I'm delighted to see, finally, my lesser-known, previously off-screen favorites, Ratcatcher and Ventriloquist, get some love too, and there's a few others that haven't gotten quite as much chance to shine present. Even though the game just sort of dumps you into Gotham already fearing mysterious new creation, the Rat King. And it's rather abrupt, being like, he has a big scary following already. I do think the game justifies it well enough by the end. It's certainly better than the reveal of the Arkham Knight, and it's actually written with enough class consciousness for the poor and disenfranchised that it feels plausible for this universe. Impressively, Shadow even avoids the worst of prequel problems, where you're like, okay, why didn't I hear about this in earlier, later entries? About as well as can be expected. There is an implicit explanation written into why the public isn't out there talking about the Rat King by the end, and it's different from what the few characters in the know know, and why they aren't talking about the Rat King by those games, and it holds up mostly cleanly to heavy scrutiny with established Arkhamverse lore. Like, I think some thug dialogue is all that explicitly got retconned from earlier games, but thugs are deliberately shown wrong all the time, so that's not even really a retcon. This game even throws in one simple little inclusion that fixes the most egregious continuity snarl between Origins and Asylum. Something that had to be assumed as retconned from Asylum now has an easy explanation to remain canon. I adore that. This story remains interesting and unexpected and detailed and beautifully performed. It gets an unambiguous recommendation for a playthrough on that alone. Batman Arkham Shadow is the game I needed right now. It's what I needed for myself, and it's what the series needed for itself. It's a lot like Asylum, where there is room for things to grow, but it's such a phenomenal experience that it stands alone well, too. Someone who's never even played one of these games would still get so much out of this. And the flip side of the spectrum, die-hard fans will be eaten good. This has been a wonderful game to get out of my own head when that's been so crucial and tricky. It gets my unambiguous recommendation. I'm going to keep patron thanks simple and verbal to get this video out just a little faster. Special thanks, patrons. I know you've been especially patient in this time. Not only am I getting more exclusive content back on track for you, I'm aiming to start having some of my videos available early for you guys to see them first as well, as much as I reasonably can. I'll provide some official details at some point when I'm a little more gathered. For everyone who made it this far, thank you. Please remember to like and comment, you can subscribe if you haven't, and my socials are all linked in the description. I've been working on a lot of art during this difficult time, trying to keep myself working on something. And some of that has made it onto my Instagram specifically, if you want to check it out.